You're strong.
I know.
It's okay. I've got you now.
Just like in the movies.
Welcome to SuperWonder Legacy. I am Jared. I'm here with Britt. What's up, Britt?
Hello, hello.
And this is the show where we prove that Lois Lane is Lois Lame. So that's a new thing on the show that apparently people that watch the show have been putting in the comments. So there you go. I appreciate that. So we're talking about SuperWonder and animation. So let's get started. And first off, I want to commend Britt for doing very extensive research. Like when she sends me like the links to all the stuff I had to put in the presentation, it was like it got to the point where my Safari browser had like so many links that they started to stack on top of each other.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I mostly use my iPad for things because I'm on the go. So yeah, I'm telling you, I had tabs, and I'm like over 50 tabs, trying to get all the information.
Oh, jeez. So let's get started. So the first start off, DC itself, more than Marvel, has like they are the creme de la creme of animated universes. Whether or not that's the DCAU, that's DCAMU, that's Tomorrowverse, or like Under the Red Hood. DC typically has like the best animated movies, and
Yeah.
and projects that feature Superman and Wonder Woman are really no exception to that. And every single like relationship, every single like show has dealt with the friendship slash relationship in some degree. Others to start off good and then get bad by people doing stuff off screen. I'm looking at you, James Tucker.
Right.
Like, oh my gosh. So first off, we have Lad's favorite show, the Superfriends. All right. So, Britt, explain.
So Superfriends ran from 1973 to 1985 on ABC, as part of this Saturday morning cartoons. And kids loves waking up, having their cereal, turn on TV, and it was produced by Hanna-Barbera, and yeah, it was based on the DC characters. Now, this show it was fun, lighthearted, team ups, craziness. I believe it's very much the Silver Age.
Mm-hmm.
And what I loved about this was that mostly Clark and Diana was like a team. You had Batman and Robin as the, known dynamic duo, but you also had Superman and Wonder Woman naturally become a pair, to where Diana would use Clark, as basically her personal taxi cab.
And we have this.
Right.
Which is
on his
funny
shoulder.
because I'm like, Superman, can't you fly?
I think with this episode that you're showing, he was scared. I think something happened and he basically became, scared of things.
Oh,
So
wow. That's
I'm
great.
guessing Diana had to protect him.
She's like, oh my gosh, do I have to carry this entire relationship all the time? Like, wow. This is also the show that's responsible for Aquaman being a joke, because he was known for talking to fish and surfing on two like seahorses over a wave while he was like waving. He's like, Aquaman.
Yeah. Wow, you did the voice really good.
Oh, thank you. Meanwhile, back at the Hall of Justice.
Yeah, I mean, it was over the top, and going back to see those kind of cartoons, that's what it was, like the Looney Tunes. It was over the top. You didn't take it serious. It was, laughing and stuff. And just like I said, kids that, 5, 6 and 7, maybe 8 years old, eating, their favorite cereal, just having fun and being a kid.
Mhm.
Nowadays, of course, cartoons are more geared towards teens and, kind of more adult. So, yeah, so I think that is why man seemed so lame at that time, because at first he wasn't lame. To the
Mm-mm.
generation of kids that grew up on with Super Friends, it wasn't lame to them. They did want to be Aquaman. They did want to be Superman with his underwear on the outside.
Oh my gosh.
And and also this show, like I said, it gave people Superman and Wonder Woman, and that generation became shippers of them. And I think that Steve Trevor was in the show as Diana's love interest. I think for like one episode or something, but still nobody cared, and they still shipped Superman and Wonder Woman.
Fun fact about this show: there's an episode where they were going to make a Justice League movie directed by Mr. Snyder.
Really?
Yeah, the dude's name was Mr. Snyder. I don't know if his name was Zach, but I'm just like, oh wow, someone was prophetic.
That is very manifesting something.
The funny part about this, and I was watching the documentary about them making Batman the Animated Series, and one of the things they said about this, they ran into a lot of issues when they decided to use Darkseid as a character because it's Darkseid, and like standards and practices were like, can you make him less mean? Or like whenever there was a scene where the Justice League was shrunk and had to fight giant spiders, and like I think Superman threw one off a table, and then the standards and practices people would say, can you show that the spider's okay? That's what these people had to deal with.
Well, it's all in good fun. I mean, some people take things serious, and some people, can just have fun with it. And that's what this is supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, Britt, so did I ever tell you this? Speaking of studio executives, this is kind of off topic, but this is comics, we go off topic all the time. But when they were doing Man of Steel, so one of the notes that David Goyer got was, you shouldn't destroy Superman's ship. How is he going to get back to Krypton?
I read that, and yeah,
and I love Goyer's response. It blew up. You saw it in the first 5 minutes of the movie. Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, executives, there's a difference. Executives sometimes are all about the money, the business, but they don't care about the property itself. Honestly, I don't know who doesn't know that Krypton blows up.
Because I'm pretty sure everyone knows the basic story of Superman.
Yeah, but if you don't know even the basics, maybe this isn't the property that you should, be a caretaker of. And
Exactly.
honestly, they have definitely neglected Superman as a individual property, and just DC as a whole.
Well, yeah, and I've said this is that the reason why I'm still apprehensive about like Legacy and so many of the projects is I don't trust Warner Brothers. It's not so much about James Gunn. It's just I do not trust Warner Brothers one bit, because historically they have mismanaged the brand. And the minute that's because someone on the show last night was like, well, it's a new regime. Is it because they pulled Batgirl?
Well, I would say that with Batgirl, it got higher scores than Blue Beetle, I believe. And or it was on the same line as it. And the thing is, it was a very vicious type thing, and
Mm-hmm.
you could have released the movie,
Mm-hmm.
because if you released Blue Beetle and that didn't, well, it went okay for audiences, but it didn't give the
Mm-hmm.
financial, you know, um,
Mm-hmm.
that they needed. Then you have Aquaman. Aquaman is doing okay, but again, it doesn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
So you really just made yourself lose even more. I think that they could have gained something with Batgirl, especially given that she was a WOC and just a girl, Batgirl. And they haven't had a female um superhero movie. And yeah, I'm not claiming Wonder Woman 84. That wasn't
You can
it.
claim Wonder Woman 1 though.
Yeah. So you haven't had that type of representation in a while. And that might have been a good movie
Hmm?
for someone. Even if it felt like you're going back to I don't know, Adam West type thing, um or really back to the Burton Batman feel. You know, honestly, I would have probably enjoyed it, as a popcorn movie, but it's no less than what they already are releasing. Movies that they aren't getting anything back from. Yeah. So with Batgirl, they really showed WB just how unprofessional they are and not good with decision making.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Um,
yeah, that's my point. Is that it's the same? They're pulling the same old stuff with DC. But next, Ruby Sears. So before you say anything, people, yes, I did watch at least half of the Ruby Sears Superman and Wonder Woman special, and it was actually pretty good, if I could say so myself.
yeah, this episode, I think this was actually when, okay, so as you know, I started really getting into comics, New 52, but
Mm-hmm.
did see, Kingdom Come, with my uncle, and then, but I wasn't really interested
Mm-hmm.
in superheroes just yet. Maybe, well, DC side. Marvel, they did have, the X-Men and everything like that. They had Spider-Man. You know, it's true that Marvel did capture audiences much more than DC did.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was going back to seeing, you know, in my interest in this relationship, let me see how far it goes back. And one of the things that I did stumble upon that was basically the first thing was this episode. And I was like, oh, this is really cute. And also with even with, and we'll get to that, Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, I was like, huh, it's some parts of that you can tell was inspired, how they want to twist the relationships and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And this episode, I think it reminded me of the when Diana was turned into a pig, and
Oh, jeez.
also when Bruce was trying to find her in the dirt or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like those instances were basically taken from, you know, older episodes from Superfriends or this episode that, of course, changed the dynamic in character relationships. And of course, we get into that later because, as always, we have a pattern of that, even within anime. So, yeah,
Yes.
not only is taking Clark and Diana's relationship and ignoring aspects or using one or the other as a mouthpiece or uh, revisions or whatever in comics, but they also have had it in animation.
Yeah, I love this episode so much. The first moment we see Lois Lane, and they actually have her being jealous of Diana, and I'm like, I like what
Yes.
this is. I like this. She's supposed to be. I'm supposed to get alone time with Superman, not Wonder Woman, and I'm like, oh, this is great.
And I think that when they're jumping on the roof, I think they're holding hands too. Like they hold hands for a moment, and them sitting on top of the Daily Planet. It really does look like, yeah, this is supposed to be the pair. Like, Lois, you can go whatever, but
Pound grass.
why? Diana knows Clark, and he's open to share that he's a reporter. And he also says that, being Superman is his job. And it's like there's no, it felt like with Diana, there's no, as always, he is Clark, Kyle, and Superman all in one with her.
Yeah, and if you know, speaking of them staying on the Daily Planet, if you look at the direction her body's lean when she's staring at him, particularly when they're talking, particularly in the bottom left GIF here, yeah, body language wise, if she's turned toward him in that way, it's looking very provocative. And then of course she kisses him right here. And then Clark is like, okay, I gotta go burn off steam. I gotta go punch something.
I love that it seemed like it was caught off guard because he's already telling Hippolyta that they make a great team, but then Diana kisses him on the cheek, and it's like, you just kissed me in front of your mom.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's why Superman takes off and flies away immediately, because I'm like, I don't want to get skewered by the in-laws.
Right, but that was really what sold the relationship for me, was that honestly, I was confused because I'm like, who is Lois and why is he with her? And
we've all had those moments, Britt.
And then I see them, and it really is an automatic resonation, and you gravitate to the pairing. Not in a shallow way, as people want to say that they're matching colors. No, it's not that. It's something more than that. They do match with the colors. They match personality wise, and they just match with their chemistry and just their partnership. And you automatically feel and this episode gave that.
Yeah, I remember these are the same people that say that Diana should be with Bruce because he's a rich kid and she's a princess. So really, at this point, the entire it was kind of interesting. SuperWonder, I think, is the only ship that I can think of that goes beyond that takes account the whole person as opposed to just one aspect. Like with Clois, it's like more like, oh, he needs her to keep his humanity. So that's just half the character. She needs to be with Batman because she's a princess and he's a rich guy. I'm just like, what?
Yeah, the whole Aristocat of, and to say that Bruce is like the Prince of Gotham or something like that, or like he's royalty for Gotham. No, that's not the same thing. The thing is, you're ignoring the fact that Diana doesn't care to being a princess. That's why she left her island in the first place. If she cared about, being only known as royalty, she would have stayed. She is more than that. She is more than a princess. She's more than even a warrior and everything. She's just Diana who wants to help people, who loves nature. She doesn't care for luxurious things. Of course, she's going to carry herself as a princess and everything like that because she grew up that way. But that doesn't necessarily mean she cares for it. And Bruce, I mean, like I said, Diana doesn't care for luxurious things, and Bruce, honestly, he doesn't even care the for his own luxury stuff because he has emotional issues. He's he uses the playboy facade to like hide his pain and his I think Ben Affleck, he said it that with his iteration of Batman or Bruce, he was an alcoholic at some
Mhm.
point, and he was basically sleeping around and everything. You know, that type of thing, royalty or whatever, that Hollywood in the aspect of a human, that that type of life, not what Diana should be subjected to, not what she
Yeah.
needs to have. And
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is like even with that, when you look at Zach, he wasn't setting up Wonder Bat. Even he said when you actually do the math on it, it's not gonna work. And I'm like, that was the biggest like vindication moment because I was like, am I gonna have to say I disagree with Zack Snyder on something? And then he says it's not gonna work, and I was like, oh, thank God. But
yeah, it's really the
mhm.
only thing that relationship or whatever or non-existent one. It's only for Batman. What I see Batman fans say is that he's peak human, and for this
Peak human.
goddess, yeah, for this goddess to fall on her knees or whatever for this human that can do the impossible. It's basically very much a teen boy power fantasy. And it's stuff that's so realistic. And what they do is they're very disrespectful to as a character,
Mhm.
independent character, and just a woman, period. They think of her as just a notch on a bedpost or something like that for Batman. And she's a trophy. If she is chasing after him, they feel like he is the big alpha. And um and yeah, I just really don't like that dynamic at all. I don't know why some people push it, but then again, I do because it's a power fantasy.
It's
They want to
exactly
say
because of
that
this. Thank you, Britt. You gave me the most fantastic transition to DCAU. So the thing is, there are a lot of parts of DCAU that I like. Batman the Animated Series is great. Superman is great. When you get to Justice League, there are a couple of decisions that I absolutely abhor. Well, number one, making Wonder Woman's father, well, implying that Wonder Woman's father is Hades and not Zeus. That's the first part, and then the whole Wonder Bat thing. And here's why, Britt and Conroy and
Susan.
Bruce Timm have been
Oh,
all 100% like honest about this. They thought Wonder Woman was the one note character, and I'm like, it shows because of the way you portray her in the show.
exactly. With your first point of Hades, okay, that that is just totally wrong.
I
Um,
know, right?
even that is wrong too. Same time, the way New 52 had it was that at least he cared for Hippolyta. We know that Zeus is a cheater.
Mhm.
Like that's Hera is bitter. She's the goddess of marriage and love and everything. But at the same time, for her own self, she is very bitter and angry because Zeus is, a cheater. But he cared for Hippolyta. And then for Diana, she is like the special child, um, the prodigal daughter. And he cares for Diana too. And you see that. You don't see anything malicious like the episode from Hades. It was very villain. But with Zeus, you have this softness. Especially I think it was Wonder Woman 52,
Mhm.
New 52, Wonder Woman 52. I think, and he cradles her, and he, says that Diana, she did good on her mission and everything, but it's time for, me to take back my throne and take responsibility for what has occurred. And
Hmm.
the way he cradles Diana as like his daughter is just it. The illustration is very emotional.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's one part that I would say Zeus gets a one up on that. Now, as far as Zeus versus the clay origin, yes, the clay origin is by far superior because of the beginning of what it does represent, as in female empowerment, um, the idea that Hippolyta crafts, or this baby, perfect baby, and she is um, blessed by all the gods. So yeah, I would take the clay origin, but at the same time, it is a 50-50 between the Zeus origin. Now with uh-huh.
Yeah, I was about to say with this, they somehow took, and it was kind of funny when you see Wonder Woman purists on Twitter. This is the one time I will agree with them. They somehow took the Zeus origin and made it worse.
Yeah, it it really did. Um and then the fact that Diana didn't have a relationship with Hippolyta. Well, okay, so Dwayne McDuffie, I guess it was on his blog or something like that, or a Q&A, and he confirmed, and I think it was also confirmed on a watchtower from
Hmm.
Twitter that's basically dedicated to JLU,
Hmm.
and they confirmed that with the timeline, Diana is 18. So she basically is a runaway. Even though she's technically an adult at 18, it's still she still acted like an angry teenager, schoolgirl, whatever.
Hmm.
So you have her running away. She steals the Wonder Woman attire, and then she's banished from Themyscira. She has a very distant, kind of sour relationship with Hippolyta, and she doesn't really develop a character. She seems so angry all the time. She's
She's always smashing stuff, and the thing is that is not Wonder Woman, because Wonder Woman is one of those characters. Yeah, she's a warrior, and that's true. But honestly, here's the thing: they turned Wonder Woman really into Shiera.
yeah, and that's the thing, is that Hawk Girl, when I saw um Justice League, I was honestly I didn't like Wonder Woman. I was more of a fan of Hawk Girl. And I
Hmm.
was like, this is just like a total different iteration from Superfriends in Ruby. Because I was like, well, what is this? Is this how her character is? And even with the only story that I actually paid attention to was Kingdom Come, like not even that Diana is like this. So and the whole trying her flirting with Batman just really
Oh
threw me for a
God,
loop.
that ignoring the fact that Batman is like 40 and she's like 18,
Team.
but it's also the idea that so for one thing, it turns Batman into a dude that sleeps around, which to a degree Bruce is, but it turns Batman into that instead of Bruce. Because you could argue that Bruce Wayne sleeping around, that's more for like to keep up appearances so no one suspects he's Batman. I got that. But when you put that to the Batman persona, that's what I have issues with. Then it basically turns this symbol of female empowerment. Literally, she was on the cover of the first Ms. magazine, and she is now like awestruck and with the bad boy.
Exactly. It was very and the thing is, what Bruce Timm said about Clark and Diana's relationship was that it was the quarterback and the head cheerleader. And it's like, honestly, that isn't a bad comparison because uh, you have the quarterback, he is the leader. And then you have, I mean, head cheerleader, Diana isn't a cheerleader like that. She's maybe, if you take it as she's being a motivator, sure, for the team or whatever. But yeah, honestly, that cliche is much more like a Disney type, one of those
Well, hang on.
happy.
For the quarterback and head cheerleader, that's actually a compliment when you think about it. It could be because the quarterback and head cheerleader relationship is kind of like American culture. It's kind of like the classic American thing.
Exactly, and they are like this happy couple that is, yeah, perfect or whatever, but they are happy. You wanting the good girl, the head cheerleader, to go for the bad boy, and she becomes rebellious, and she, gets into things that she knows she shouldn't, get in trouble and everything like that.
So she falls
And
under the corrupting influence of men that the Amazons have long warned about. So I'm like, oh, thanks for proving Hippolyta right when Diana's supposed to prove her wrong.
exactly. And you also see within that is that even though they purposely tried to keep Clark and Diana distant for that reason, when they did have them have, a few scenes together, especially the one where Clark, when Diana is saying that she misses home, and I think I think that was Paradise Lost, and she is standing there when a street light is about to fall on her, and Clark pushes her out the way, and he is wondering what's wrong, and she tells him that she misses home, and he tells her to go ahead and go home. That was something that Batman, Bruce, or whatever never did. He never cared for Diana like that. Um, Other episodes where, even with changing for the man who has everything, giving she gave him the flower that I think Bruce actually had the flower in the original book story.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course,
I will
they
say
omitted.
it was hilarious when she asked Bruce what he got, and he goes, cash.
Yeah, I mean, that is so like it really gave Batman like such a generic, shallow type personality. And and then they of course omitted the kiss.
Mm-hmm. Now,
Um
I don't think it's that shallow for Batman to give Clark cash, because it's more like it's playing on the episode, what do you get for the man who has everything? And it is
that's
kind of
true.
funny. It is kind of funny. It reminds me of that line from the Snyder Cut when Barry asked Batman, what are your superpowers again? I'm rich.
That's true, but in the sense, in the context of the cartoon though, it's like Batman becomes obnoxious, and his only thing is being this rich dude. I mean, like that's his whole thing, is this rich dude with issues, and
A
that's all
lot
I
of
can.
issues.
Yeah, and that's all I can give is like money, and these women are falling for me because I have money. That's pretty much
Mm,
what that felt like.
true.
Um, yeah, and so you have this generation of especially Batman fans who think that Wonder Woman, I mean, on the Instagram, there's a post that I have, a Christmas post, and it is, I believe, over 26,000 likes. And I have constant Batman fans um posting gifs or saying she belongs to Batman, this,
She
calling her out her name.
belongs. Oh wow, that's great. They're actually asserting
Yeah,
ownership. Or there was this great Instagram post that, of course, see, Brit likes to send me random people's posts to make me pissed off, apparently. So it was this one of like, it's an AI image of Wonder Woman pregnant. Superman and Batman are like concerned. They go, who's the father? And then someone said like, the reasoning for this, I'm actually going to see if I can pull it up on my phone, but it was like it really showed me that this is all very, very, very shallow.
Oh, I remember that.
It was recently, so I'm trying to pull that up. But it was like I'm watching this and I'm like, what?
I believe the tweet was Diana. It will be Clark's, but Diana will.
I got it. Yeah,
it's-
yeah. Superman is the father, but she's pushing it on Batman because he is rich.
Yeah, I mean
What?
that shows how they don't know Diana as a character. And again, they are only seeing her as a princess, but she's not some obnoxious, snooty Paris Hilton type princess.
She doesn't care for someone's cash. I got news for you.
And also there was a comment of like she's always like Batman more, or they've always been a couple in comics. I'm like,
nope.
What comics have you read?
If anything, she has Superman has more of a claim to her if we're going by comic history. Plugging one of the earlier episodes of the show, by the way.
Yeah, so it's like saying always. It shows that you have never read anything, and yet, but you have this generation of Batman fans who want to claim her and as like a property. And then you have the Miss Little Piggy episode that not only makes Cersei a joke, but Diana is a plot device. And the thing is, with that episode, you have Batman and Diana on a rooftop, and she's trying to flirt. She's trying to get him to have a date.
And even Batman is like, no.
Yeah, he gives her these reasons, and he says that my enemies will come after her, and she breaks a gargoyle.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, what's the twist about that? And I think they were trying to be very smart, is that Diana gets turned into a pig with her own villain, and it's Batman who has to save her.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that just proved his last point, is that Diana she will be turned into a damsel in distress for Batman to save. And I think that also someone did have a thread of the problems with Diana in this animated series, is that she is a damsel in distress most of the time for Batman to save.
And she's a prize. But the other thing that's really funny is that when Nick and I covered that episode on Justice League Rewatch, I said, isn't it kind of funny? So this episode, I think, was written by Paul Dini, and what's kind of funny about it is it's like Bruce Timm is trying to push Wonder Woman and Batman together, and then Paul Dini is like, no, Bruce, stop it.
Yeah, it's I just don't know, when you see that scene, why do you think that is a good shipping scene? Like,
yeah,
why
because
do you use that?
Batman's saying no. Batman's telling you right now, Wonder Bat doesn't work because he's like, you're an immortal princess from an island of warriors. I'm a rich kid with issues, a lot of them. I still don't get it. But moving on.
Yeah, and so
then we.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, back to Superman and Wonder Woman side of this, they did have some scenes where I believe it was when I think it was Savage Time, when he has the beard and she's like, are you keeping it? That was a good scene.
Or like the metal gif here when they're fighting the Justice Lords, and the Wonder Woman goes, "Do you want to switch partners?"
Yeah, that one was good. And also to actually see, yes, like I said, she's always angry, but to see her actually have emotion and cry when they thought that Toy Man killed Clark.
She almost killed Toy Man. To the point where Flash had to stop. You notice everyone else was like frozen in shock, but then she like tore apart the robot, and then she was about to punch him. She's like, "Do I look like I'm interested in your games?" And then she's about to punch him, and then Flash goes, "Stop!" And she goes, "Why should I?" He goes, "I'm trying to speak for Superman."
Yeah, that scene shows so much more emotion and genuineness than trying to pair her off and her being this a schoolgirl with a crush for the bad boy. Um, and then her genuine happiness when he came back.
Mm-hmm.
That scene alone just showed that, yeah, they're pretty much holding back this uh this dynamic or whatever. And then you have the Fatal Five movie. Um, they didn't really show Batman and Diana as you know, interacting much at all in that movie. It was really Clark and Diana.
With his
Um,
shirt off, mind you.
yeah, it's when she goes into the in the room, she says she came as soon as she heard. And then there was another scene, I believe, when he asked her, is she okay? And she said, oh, I just broke a nail. So that banter and those type of scenes, it really doesn't take much to have Clark and Diana's dynamic like that.
Well, Britt, it also makes it a little more frustrating because with those scenes, that showed me they know how to write Wonder Woman. They just don't write her well.
Well, trying to write her again as being someone she's not to fit with Batman. And not only that, but I know that Batman Beyond premiered before Justice League, but there was an episode in Batman Beyond. I think it's 2, or it is the same episode where I think Terry was asking him about his love life, and Batman, he basically admitted, or he did say, that he stepped over women. And it's kind of like, wow, like you wanted Wonder Woman to be tied to a man who says that he purposely steps over women. And then you have it where I think he shows his love interest throughout the DCAU, and Diana's nowhere to be found.
Yeah, so, and plus, if it was meant to be, why isn't she still there? Because she's immortal. She would be alive at that point. Superman's there.
I believe that she is, if I'm not mistaken, I did see a tweet where she died. She does die for some reason.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think that she's...
But Superman lives, and he's older than she is.
I think in the comics, but I don't know if that's not actually canon or whatever to the DCAU.
No, it's not.
They just use, whatever. She goes to the alternate universe because...
Oh, yeah, when she marries Lord Superman.
But she is with Lord Batman first because her Batman obviously rejected her. So she goes, again, you are disrespecting this embodiment of female empowerment, that she will actually go to another world chasing after a man. Like, that is so crazy.
Yeah, we're pining over a man. That doesn't work.
So he doesn't want you in the world that you actually come from. So you go to another world, and I guess it's the opposite. Well, obviously it's the opposite, and you take a chance that this version will want you. And I just, yeah, that rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. But and that's the thing. I'm like, again, in conclusion, talk with the DCAU. It has some really great parts, and I acknowledge the effect it had on DC. A lot of people got into DC because of this, myself included. And it's like it has one of the best takes on Batman and BTAS and Batman the Animated Series. So you know what? That is untouched. I enjoyed Superman. Justice League, I enjoy mostly. It's just some scenes like this just tick me the wrong way. And then I haven't watched Batman Beyond fully yet. But that's just me. So
yeah, it brings you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it brings you in, and that's the thing, is that these adaptations, they bring you in, but please like read the actual source material, to know the characters. And that is the thing that I'm seeing more so that especially Batman fans do not do.
Well, a lot of the Wonder Bat shippers, when you ask them, give me an example, they'll either point to the Immortal Beloved rip-off scene written by Tom King, where again they said this could never happen, and then that scene in Justice League Unlimited. Isn't it kind of funny how whenever they point to a Wonder Bat moment, they basically point to the moment where both of them say this will never happen?
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, isn't that funny? It's almost like DC's trying to tell you something. At least we got canon and continuity. But anyway, then we get to one of the other like really great DC shows, Young Justice.
Yes, Young Justice. I didn't really watch it much. I did see clips of it, but it seemed like a very good.
It was. The later seasons got a little bit too preachy for my taste, but overall it was really, really good.
And also the last season, of course, they jumped the shark with the whole time skip and trying to throw in the rebirth status quo.
But the interesting part about it, if you notice, I think it was the season before that, did you notice how they started adapting a lot of the DCAMU designs for the characters?
That is...
Like, particularly for a Wonder Woman, I was like, wait, is this... For a second there, I was like, did they just make this canon to the DCAMU? But I was like, no, that's too much of a good idea.
Yeah, it seemed like what they did was they were trying to really have synergy everywhere, and especially with Rebirth. So the Rebirth so how they tried to do it in New 52, but you still had different like unique adaptation of things. They wanted to really, go full force with that with Rebirth, because they thought that putting your eggs in one basket, that Rebirth would be the thing. Not only did you have a Rebirth-esque status quo for the movies, whatever they tried to do with that, but also within the comics, of course, and then animation. And honestly, when you see the older seasons, and then you go to the third and fourth, or just the fourth, it seemed like a total different show, because they tried to. The thing is, Clark was, I don't think he actually accepted Connor, but then all of a sudden in season 4, they were a big family type thing. Everything is always done off screen. And that's something that I just can't stand.
In which case, hey, this is very much canon to DCAMU, because as we'll see when we get to that part of the DC universe, that's basically their whole MO.
Yeah. But in the beginning of these the seasons, Clark and Diana had a kind of a relationship. You can tell that something was developing, or was there a little bit. And I think that Tucker was asked about their relationship, and he didn't give a straight answer. so I guess they were trying to play on that just a little bit. And you have the scene where um he is, I guess he falls into the ocean.
Oh yeah, what
And
happened was they were trying to like they were fighting some aliens and stuff, and then he was the last one to get out because basically his thing was like, hey, evacuate these civilians, I'll hold them off. So he did that, and then he got out right as the thing exploded, and then they picked him up in the water. And just Britt, I know what you're gonna say, because the moment I saw this scene, I was like, okay, they may that's kind of blatant.
yeah, this scene very much so. Of course, you would do this for anybody, I guess, but to have him on her lap and she's waiting to, for him. And I love the voice actress for
For Wonder
Diana
Woman,
here.
yeah, she's
Yeah.
so good.
She has like this deep, exotic voice, and it is the thing is, a lot of people give praise to Susan Eisenberg. She did good, but her voice is very, and it's very distinctive. But for Diana, if you want to go a little bit more exotic, you know, with what they want to do with her, that voice fit her much better. Um, but the way that she said he's still breathing and she seems relieved and everything, you do get a sense of um something more between them. And then another scene is when they were, I guess, picking new Justice League members, and she agreed with him on his choice, and she touches his hand. It's like, okay, you didn't have to touch his hand. We as fans appreciate it, but the way that she touched his hand, um,
It's almost like she's saying, "Easy, sweetie."
yeah, he, you know,
Okay,
that gave some
Wonder
type
Woman
of
is
hint.
played by Maggie Q in Young Justice.
Oh, okay, yeah, I really like the more exotic voice
Yeah,
for Diana.
me too. That's why I love Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, because even though it's a more Middle Eastern accent instead of a Greek one, it still kind of works.
Yeah, she even I think it's more like a gives off this sultry type,
Hmm.
um, you know, and something so alluring. And that is something in Tomorrowverse, we'll get to
Hmm.
that. Even her voice is a little bit better too. It's it's a little off from what I like with the like a deeper bass a little bit with the mix in with the exotic, but it works.
Yeah,
Um,
I like Wonder Woman with an accent, and even when I was reading Paradise Lost and Paradise Found by Phil Jimenez, even he writes in there when Lois is hanging out with Wonder Woman for a day, he said she has a small Greek accent.
yeah, she has a very clear voice, but when she speaks, you can tell that she's from somewhere totally, you know, different.
Hmm.
Um, she isn't supposed to be someone that you can hide, that she is, even as Diana Prince, she's a standout. And so everything about her, her voice, the way she carries herself is supposed to stand out just a little bit.
Hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, so with the change of Young Justice, for her to have the that change, I really didn't like it because it was over designed too. It
Hmm.
just seemed like they tried different designs for her and just mixed it all together.
But
It just didn't
actually,
work.
Say what you want to say about that season. That season had, again, Wonder Woman bashing Batman about his whole keeping secrets. And that's another reason why Wonder Bat doesn't work. Batman will keep secrets. Wonder Woman's whole thing is you don't keep secrets from her. That's kind of her thing.
That is true. And the thing is, every shipper, every, anything of even, and that is a meme of that if two characters are standing together or whatever, or they look at each other, it's like you take that and run with it as in that is justifying ship.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a second. But even in this, what had happened in that season was, so Lex Luthor is the Secretary General of the United Nations, and he starts hamstringing what the Justice League can do. So what Batman does, he arranges for, like, obviously all the Bat family characters and like a bunch of other Justice Leaguers to publicly leave the Justice League. Now, what you find out is that they're secretly they're running a mission to take down Lex, but keeping the secret from literally everyone, including the other members of the Justice League. And then Wonder Woman's like, does this sit well with you people? It's like you're lying to everyone, including your friends.
Yeah. And also there is also another scene where I think she's talking about Robin and saying that he's
in that
like a child soldier.
Yeah.
So yeah, they are not compatible at all. If you actually read the comics or whatever, or watch this show, and I did see Wonder Bat fans kind of saying that Diana was written out of character because she disagreed.
when it supports my ship, she's in character. When she's not, she's out of character.
I mean, that is really low.
That's awesome.
Because she
awesome.
will not support child soldiers. She will not support lying. Even with the secret identity thing, she straddles the fence because it's kind of like
it's lying.
It just all depends.
That's what was so great about the Charles Sewell book, which, by the way, I have to show this off on stream. I haven't shown this off on stream. So my sister got me for Christmas this signed, graded CGC Superman Wonder Woman #1 with the wraparound cover. That's signed by Charles Sewell.
Yeah.
But anyway, in this book, even in the first issue, they have that whole conversation, Hesia and Wonder Woman, about the secret identities. And even when she goes to Themyscira, this is why this book is so good. When she goes to Themyscira to like talk with her mom, I use air quotes because her mom was a pillar of stone. She goes, she kind of has doubts. She's like, he wants me to go places. I don't know if I can go. In other words, I don't know if I can do this whole secret identity thing because I don't like lying. That's why when Tomasi said, if there's no drama, there's no story, I'm like, did you read the book? And the answer is no.
Right. Well, the thing is with Tomasi is he wanted to, honestly, it just feels like he wanted to destroy the relationship. Any good that, even if he did read Soul's book, is very much possible that he was like, oh no, we can't have this go on any further, knowing that the book sold.
And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if the treatment of this book is part of the reason why Sewell left DC.
I honestly believe that because he said it wasn't because of sales. It was because of the direction that they wanted to go in. And honestly, that really doesn't justify anything because you have a book that is maintaining at least 50K or above, and much better than their independent books, even Action Comics. Rebirth didn't last but like 6 months.
Yeah.
Before...
And what's funny, if you look at that sales chart that we always bring up on the show, if you look at that, the issues that are the highest selling are before Tomasi comes on the book, and then it gets that drop. And I'm like, it makes freaking sense.
Yeah. And even at at its worst, it's still because the fans supported it, trying to, you know, what they say, vote with your wallets. That is what we try to do, is show that this book is being supported. But at the same time, we don't want to support it because of how Tomasi was writing it.
But
And
I mean, I read it partly because I still had faith that, hey, maybe he's going to have some big finale that's going to wrap this up and it'll actually like create a really compelling story. And then they kill him.
yeah, I mean, that is what all of the New 52 Superman and Superman and Wonder Woman fans felt, was that, okay, if we, like I said, if we support the book, if we show and actively show that we are being positive, they won't do whatever they're trying to do. But no, they were very much ready to kill him off and kill off the relationship, bring back the Superman that they preferred, and everything just basically aged like milk.
That's
Um,
a good, really good analogy. It aged like week old milk. In other words, it's almost done. And the thing is, I would like to tell someone what it's like that scene in Avengers Infinity War when when Thanos actually snaps and he's in the dream world with Gamora and she goes, "Did you do it?" "Yes." "What did it cost?" "Everything."
yeah, and like I said, you put your eggs in one basket. You not only are the designs of animation um all the same, they began to slash the budgets and everything. They the storylines, like, no uniqueness whatsoever. And like you said, it became too preachy. It I'm all for diversity. I
Yeah,
love diversity.
absolutely.
But at the same time, if you have this sort of um very annoying cringe like agenda, no, it's not gonna fly.
Yeah, because
And
then what you do is that when you actually have a good what these people don't realize is that when they don't express the message properly, what that does is when someone actually expresses it properly, people aren't going to pay attention because they think it's more of the preachy stuff.
exactly. And like with season 4, with the whole, like, the families, the dynamics, the relationships, it was all done off screen. And
Yeah.
especially with
Mhm.
Lois and Clark being together and having John. It was like, when did that happen? Because I don't even think Lois was even in Young Justice before. And
No, she was. You know, it's kind of funny. Yeah, the first couple of seasons we never saw Lois, which is actually, by the way, going back to DCAU for one thing. The best part about Justice Unlimited, say what you want about Wonder Woman or Batman, Lois barely shows up.
yeah, and she's only in a relationship with Superman. She never finds out that she's Clark Kent. And it's kind of like, that is so weird that you're working with him, and all this time you never know that Clark Kent is Superman. Like,
It's like you can't put together at least that every time there's danger, he disappears and Superman appears. You can't put that together, and you're supposed to make me believe that she's the greatest journalist of all time. But anyway, the but I would say Young Justice had more redeeming qualities than not redeeming qualities, and that's why I still watch it to this day, even though it's air quotes canceled. The one thing is that the last episode, okay, they basically hint that if they do another season, they're doing Heroes in Crisis.
oh no.
Yeah, exactly. That was legit. Because what happens is that Beast Boy has this really cool arc where he goes through depression and stuff, and that's great. The mental health scene's fine. Then Black Canary goes, we need to have a place like a sanctuary where heroes can come deal with their mental health. And immediately, Britt, your reaction was immediately as soon as they said that, I was like, oh no.
I mean, again, that is what it really feels like. That is, for that time, what they were trying to do is everything that was um being pushed within the Rebirth 2016 through well, Rebirth brand was gone, but that status quo was still ongoing. 2018, and whenever Crisis released, and you throw it into the animation, and it's terrible. No, do not do that.
You're gonna take Tom King's. You're gonna take the story that made Tom King notorious, and you're gonna adapt that.
No way. No.
Immediately, you know what's kind of funny? Everyone on the internet was like, and they said that literally the number one response I saw to that was, "Oh no, hide Wally West."
Right. The thing is, wait, isn't he dead in
Yeah,
Injustice?
but we're like, don't bring him back, because knowing this show, they'll bring him back just to do that.
And the thing is, with Heroes in Crisis, it was a very, very good promise. It was.
It was a great premise. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing about Tom King's writing. When he writes, a lot of the premises of his books are great, because mental health with superheroes, that actually PTSD with superheroes, that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah. But it all went downhill first when you have Wally as a murderer or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have, of course, well, it's very much in character for her, but Lois without any type of remorse, or, you release confidential information about the heroes and their private, mental status and everything like that.
And then you have Harley Quinn taking down the Trinity, and then Superman Superman responding with, "She's good, Bruce, probably better than you are." And I'm like, nope, sorry.
Yeah, and Clark was he was very weak in Heroes in Crisis, because you have Harley beat you, and then you have him taken up for what Lois did. And I think he said that it was something about, I chose my marriage vows or whatever. So basically, Lois can say that she's going to kill someone or this, and it's like, well, she can do what she wants because I'm married to her, or
she has a Pulitzer.
Or something like that. Your marriage has nothing to do with this, but at the same time, your marriage is actually detrimental to you being a superhero if you decide to put that first before anyone else's countless of people's lives.
Yeah, I mean, he's a superhero. He's gonna. You can't be the center of his world.
Yeah. So, but at the same time, we did get that scene where Diana silently supports him, even though she should have slapped him.
Yeah, he's like, get some sense into your Clark.
But that scene alone, again, is so much better than him, taking up for his detrimental marriage.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't you do a fic that was basically doing like what happens after that? And they actually get together at the end of that?
Yeah, I did.
I know. I knew I read that somewhere.
Of course. Anything that deserves to be rewritten, especially with Clark and Diana's relationship or a scene or whatever, is like, it can be more.
I mean, hell,
and
guys,
I want to give more.
Here's what you have to say about Brit. You give her any scraps, she will turn that into a multi-chapter epic, kind of what we're doing.
Yes.
But there you go. But next animation was arguably one of the best DC animated movies of all time. Still gives me chills and tears every time I watch it. Justice League: The New Frontier. Like,
yes.
If you ever want to see a movie that's like a love letter to DC, it's The New Frontier. Which the premise is, it's Justice League, but during like the 50s in the Cold War.
Yeah, and again, read the actual story though.
Yes, the comic act, because again, like this and one other project that's adapting a DC story, they change stuff. And by the way, fun fact, Wonder Woman is played by Xena the Warrior Princess.
Yeah, that is a full circle type thing,
Yeah, I know.
and that was good for the design and everything for this Diana. She fit perfectly. Yeah. So with this movie, this is also, I didn't see the full movie and didn't know it was actually a comic yet, but I believe it was on Cartoon Network, and I did, the first scene I actually saw
Here you go.
was when, um, let's see. Yes, the scene where her plane crash lands
Oh yeah.
and he calls for the medic. That is the scene that I first saw.
Mm-hmm.
And then going back to, figure out what this movie is, seeing the comic panel, is like, oh, it's actually an adaptation of a book. And I read everything. I'm like, okay, going back to the movie, where is all of this? And then you see Diana dialogue in the book, and it's Lois saying
Yeah,
her
that's what
lines,
they always do. You know what's
which
kind of funny?
honestly doesn't.
You know, it's kind of funny. DC is apparently telling us that Wonder Woman and Superman belong together because they keep giving Wonder Woman's dialogue to Lois, all the romantic stuff.
Yeah, and the thing is, with the story, Diana understands the weight of being a leader and, you know, what the world needs, and with them being heroes. Lois does not know anything of that nature. So why would you even try to give her Diana's dialogue when she has no idea of the circumstances at all of the situation? Um, but it really just took away the fantastical part of it, because you see Clark going to Themyscira and Diana, they go up to fly together and they have that moment. And then all you have is Lois and Clark there on top of the Daily Planet or whatever. But it's kind of like that part just, it doesn't give that same feeling as you have Clark and Diana,
Mm-mm.
these two world, these otherworldly beings being so worldly. And
Yeah, and the other thing about Justice League, by the way, I mean to catch up, I want to add this because this is going to go full circle for episode last week on Post Crisis. What do you think about the Green Lantern parts of this movie? Because what's cool about this, it deals with Hal, and it's kind of the thing where he was a pacifist in the Korean War, and he goes, "I didn't think what they had me doing over there was worth killing, but then I learned that I would kill to survive."
honestly, the more I see and under, especially with the explanation that you gave and the whole history of Lantern last week, I am very much seeing his character in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Because for, as I said, when you don't pay attention to the character, and yeah, sometimes encyclopedias, they help, give you like this basic biography of the character. You see clips here and there, you see panels here and there, and you just have this basic, very, um, low level type understanding of this character. And also the Green Lantern live action movie.
Mm-hmm.
You see that, and you have this idea of Hal as just like this ordinary dude. Sometimes he's a womanizer. Sometimes he is, doesn't take anything serious, but he has like this, for some reason, he does become a hero for something within his heart. But at the same time, he is, you don't really understand him at a deeper level, or sometimes DC doesn't give you the chance to.
They don't.
But when you like what New 52 did, and when they actually give a deep dive of the characters and give them so much more complexity, and they aren't afraid to show the conflicts of the characters, and the character grows and learns from it, then yeah, I really have a different perspective of Hal Jordan as Green Lantern.
Well,
and honestly, he's becoming a fave of mine now.
I'm glad. In the live action movie, there are two of my favorite scenes. Number one is when they're talking about the final battle that's about to happen. He's convinced that he shouldn't be a Green Lantern. He's like, the ring made a mistake. And then Carol asks, wait, go back. How did it make a mistake? And Hal goes, because the number one thing a Green Lantern's not supposed to be is afraid. And I am terrified of this villain. And then Carol goes, you don't think your dad was afraid? And then Hal goes, well, if he did, he didn't show it. And then Carol goes, well, there's a word for that. It's called courage. And then she takes his hands and she sits down next to me and goes, the ring didn't choose you because you're fearless. It's because actually, she says that the ring didn't choose you because you were fearless. And then Hal goes, someone told me because it saw something in me. And she goes, yeah, I see it too. It didn't choose you because you were fearless. It saw that you have the ability to overcome fear. That's called courage.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. The womanizer thing, that's really just that's the surface of Hal. He's not really that much of a womanizer, because he's only been like, maybe, I mean, on the Lantern Corps maybe, but it's really a coping mechanism, because really Carol has been the only one for him. It's like how we always say about Superman really loves Wonder Woman. Hal really loves Carol. In fact, she became a Star Sapphire because when the rings first show up, they're like taking over all of these women. It used to be forcefully, and then it's basically it picked her because it knows because it felt her great love for Hal.
Yeah, you have to read, and that's the thing, to understand the characters, and like you said, some things are very surface level, and with Green Lantern there is so much history and story and detail with his character and complexity, to know that, oh, this character isn't just this, that he is much more. And the thing is, a lot of people on Twitter X, they talk about Hal Jordan too as a surface level character, and the whole legacy thing of Alan Scott being the first Lantern and he's a better Lantern and everything like that, or or even John Stewart. It's like, well, they all have their own unique stories. But for some reason, it keeps going back, though, to Hal Jordan for some reason.
He was the very first human Green Lantern at a time when the rest of the universe saw humanity as cavemen. And then imagine, you go from someone that was seen as trash to designated as the greatest of the Green Lanterns. There's even another scene in the movie when Parallax is attacking him and he's like telling him, you will be dead soon. The world will be destroyed and it'll be all your fault because you were afraid. And then as Parallax is like berating him, all you hear is Hal Jordan reciting the Green Lantern oath. And I'm just like, yeah, this is dope. Because here's the thing about Green Lantern and Hal Jordan, what that gives people. We talk about how Superman is like the most ideal man, Wonder Woman's the most ideal woman. The thing about Hal Jordan, he shows that no matter what, because we've all been afraid at one point, every one of us, and he shows that with willpower, if where there's a will, there's a way. You can overcome fear.
Yeah, and just that the Justice League as a whole, they all have their own unique, like, what they represent for people. And like you said, Superman and Wonder Woman are the perfect man and woman, whatever, you know. But at the same time, for a deeper, to go deeper with what they represent is outsiders. You know, there's you can basically categorize the Justice League.
Yeah,
and for how the Green Lanterns, or specifically how he does represent that, he actually does represent the underdog more than Batman does.
Yeah, he does.
And that's the perspective that I see him is that he is, like you said, this he's looked at as like this, as a surface level character, the womanizer, whatever, but he's not that at all. He is very much a good guy, and like I said, the underdog. And that's what you root for. You always root for the underdog at some point, and that is why he deserves, you know, to be called the greatest Lantern. I don't really know much about Alan Scott. I pretty much just know he is the Green Lantern for JSA.
What you have to know is that by his lantern's more magic. It has nothing to do with space Green Lanterns.
Oh, see, that whole thing. If his is more magic, then, you know,
it is.
Honestly, then that makes it even more complicated, or, you know, so how is Hal a legacy for Alan Scott then?
Well, because what had happened was DC wanted to change and make their guys more sci-fi, so they just they took the Green Lantern idea and then just said, okay, you know what? Let's just make him the space cop test pilot, but let's relegate Alan and Jay Garrick to Earth 2, and then that's where they'll stay. It was really that. It's like they took the idea of the they took like the name Green Lantern and the oath and brought it over to Hal Jordan.
Got it. Okay. Well,
essentially that.
It's DC's fault for making things so complicated.
Yeah. Well, actually, it was kind of cool. You mentioned John Stewart. His story is that he was a Marine guy who left and became, like, by the way, he was like one of DC's first black superheroes. So there you go right there. And the thing about him is that he's always had this guilt over his head because at one point over the course of his duties being a Green Lantern, he accidentally caused an entire planet and civilization to explode and cease to exist. And he's like, and that's always weighed heavy on him. Like, oh my gosh, what did I do?
Oh, wow. See, again, you have to know the details. I am more to know the details, of course. That's why we have this show, is more of Superman and Wonder Woman. But to know the detailed stories of these other characters is like, oh, okay, that is how, you know, I can be more, even though I don't care for DC because I'm a little, you know, salty about how they're doing things. But to know the characters, especially with writing them and wanting to explore a little bit more, whether it is a part of a Superman and Wonder Woman story or just try my hand at another character, to know these characters' backgrounds in detail and the better stories for them, to understand them and actually like them, you know, yeah, this is the Green Lanterns, or just the Lanterns whole franchise is something
so good,
very unique. In fact, that, yeah, I definitely want to explore.
What Young Justice did, this was one of the best, as much as they can't stand the last two seasons, they had this entire arc where one of the lanterns, Tomar Ray, he's an alien. He's the one that looks like a fish mixed with a chicken. You saw him in the Green Lantern movie.
Yeah.
His sector included Krypton, and you find out that he has always felt guilt because Green Lanterns are supposed to protect their planets from cataclysms like what happened to Krypton. And he's like, I failed in my duty.
Wow. See, all this interconnections and stuff is we should see more of, but DC is so like they're hell bent on keeping things separate when it should be put together and trying to put together things that shouldn't even be at all.
Yeah, that's why. Say what you want to say about James Gunn, the DCU. The minute he tells me that the Lantern show is going to be a buddy cop movie with Hal and John and other Lanterns will show up as well, I'm like, okay, you know what? Well done, sir. Thank you. I'll give you that one.
Yeah, if you the only thing is that introducing Guy Gardner first.
Yeah, I'm like, well, it could be that he's the Earth Lantern while Hal and the others are just like the intergalactic lanterns, because Earth doesn't need like five Green Lanterns.
Yeah, I like they don't need 5 or 6, 7, whatever Kryptonians.
Yeah, however the hell. Yeah, exactly, like Metropolis. But I believe in the Jeff Johns run, what they did kind of do is Guy was like one of the Lanterns. I think it was Kyle was the Lantern on the Justice League, while everyone else was like more general space. And obviously they would come back if there was ever like a cataclysm.
Yeah, I mean that's good too. Basically switch out like there's switching out shifts or whatever. You stay on Earth and I'll go. Yeah. Yeah, that is how they could make the Lanterns work, and that's pretty cool. Like I said, it's better coordination than the however many Kryptonians are in Metropolis.
Exactly.
You know?
But back to New Frontier, the other scene I love is when he shows up in Indochina and then he sees like she's like celebrating with all the women. And I love where all the women point guns at Clark. He goes, "You want to tell them that's not going to do anything?"
I love this scene because, yeah, I think that this scene represents exactly the controversy or the conflicts that Clark and Diana should, handle together, or those type of, arguments or whatever they should have to show their differences and their different perspective of things. Diana, she is all about women, taking back their strength. And these women were assaulted. They were chained. They were, stuff like that. Yeah. And honestly, the men that did that to them deserved what they got.
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm like, that's where I'm like, okay, Superman, cool off a little bit.
Yeah, so Clark's but the thing is that when people see this scene and they think that Clark is he's written to be like the poster boy of American ways and going by the law, even though the law and the judicial system is not exactly always on the side of these civilians.
Yeah.
And it is so unfair sometimes. And, the people who deserve to be punished, they either don't get punished, they don't get punished enough, or they just completely just get away with, anything, with everything. And that is what Clark sees. He sees in black and white sometimes that, like I said, he's always going to be for the law because that is what post-crisis set for Clark. Instead of instead of the hero that's supposed to be against this way of thinking, or at least change it a little bit.
It's like even Dark Knight Returns kind of did that until, say what you want about Strikes Again, but they did retcon why he would be so rah-rah for the government. But even with this, he goes throughout the entire, because as soon as he sees like the dangers of like McCarthyism, he's like, no. Okay, stop, guys. Let's all just work together and solve this, because at each other's throats, this isn't working. And by the way, this gets into a line that Wonder Woman said in the book, but Lois in the movie, where she says the world needs a leader, Cal, and that leader has to be you.
Yeah, and not only does that scene that's supposed to go, it is, those three scenes are very significant, and especially with the whole spaceman thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the scene of Diana telling him to be a leader. Then you have her, the crash of her plane. And of course, they omitted the kiss there too, because of course the producer was Bruce Timm, by the way.
Oh God, this man! It's you know what's gonna turn into, Brit, is that it's gonna turn into, like in Star Trek, the Khan. It's gonna turn into Tim.
Yeah, so it's purposely omitted and everything. So that, but of course, just like the book, and which honestly, I mean, Clark and Diana share a kiss, and it seemed very like Clark calls her his best friend, and you also have where Diana is claiming him as my Cal.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the end of the story, you have Clark asking for Lois, and it's like, where does that come from?
He did do that in the book, by the way. I just want to be clear on that. It's not that part is not necessarily the movie.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that in the book and the movie, is that part just comes out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And even in the Darwin art book, there's a small scene of Clark and Diana coming out of a bar together, holding hands.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, again, why is Lois a part of this at the end if they are supposed to be like these best friends with benefits? You know?
Mm-hmm. True. It's kind of weird. It's like DC wants to do SuperWonder, but they also don't. But anyway, moving on. By the way, before we move on to the next movie, I just want to say I am followed on Twitter by one of the editors for this book. So just wanted to put that. Apparently DC loves me, even though I spent a lot of time critiquing them. But okay. Well, it's all out of love. I want to be clear. Whenever I critique DC, it's out of love. It's not out of hatred. I love these characters so much.
You love them, but at the same time, the reason why you criticize it is because you know the potential that these
it can be better. Because I've seen it. I was in the New 52. But anyway,
right.
So this is my favorite DC animated movie that's not attached to the DCAMU. Because first off, Britt, you know, I'm a huge fan of the Trinity, so it's pretty much all Trinity. Huge fan of the New Gods. A lot of New Gods in this. And then you get some kick-ass action scenes. My one issue with the movie, after reading the book, I gotta be clear, I watched the movie before reading the book. That scene when Superman just goes full like beast mode and just lasers all those Doomsday clones. In the book, they have Wonder Woman kind of hugging him a little bit over the shoulder. And in this, she just puts his hand on his shoulder.
I mean, the animated version of that, it's okay with her putting her hand on his shoulder. But I mean, it does take away the more emotion, the true emotion that the book, you know, convey. And again, I believe this is produced by Bruce Timm, so we should go ahead and put a disclaimer. You know,
yeah. The one thing I will say about this, again, when people say, "Well, assuming Wonder Woman's too easy," in this they argue a lot, like a married couple.
I mean,
it's like that one scene when they're arguing about what to do with Kara, and the Kara's like, "Hey, why did you guys ask me?" It's like they're the parents and she's the kid. In fact, I believe some people have actually, going over to here, taken this and made her look like the daughter of Superman and Wonder Woman.
Yes, there is an edit. A Superman and Wonder Woman fan, Sam Hunt, and he did a lot of art during the New 52, and he edited the top right image for her to have, the black hair and more to look like Diana with I think she does have a Wonder Woman uniform on.
But she also her uniform has the Superman colors, I believe.
Yeah, and then I think he did change Clark's emblem to be Kingdom Come.
Yeah, emblem. And I think it was the Great Temples as well.
Yeah,
I think.
And Diana has on the Kingdom Come attire, Wonder Woman attire. But yeah, that edit went viral a couple of years ago, and
it still shows up on my Instagram feed occasionally.
Yeah, it honestly, Instagram is a playing field for Superman and Wonder Woman images. I mean,
we honestly, own Instagram. You're in our territory then.
Honestly, and the thing about Instagram is that it is obviously a visual platform. So for Superman and Wonder Woman images to go viral, and sometimes when I post things, I sometimes don't expect it to go, as it does. So when I'm surprised when it just goes up and up and up. And like I said, this last post for Christmas, I'm just posting a Christmas of celebration and decorations of Clark and Diana, casually putting Christmas ornaments on a tree. And for that to get 26,000 likes is like it's going up more. It's like, wow, people, the general audience that visually see Superman and Wonder Woman, again, it resonates with them. And it's like, this is what people want to see or interested in, some type of visual with them. And it's so easy. DC can give us that.
By the way, I just looked up Sam Hunt's page, but if you notice, he even drew a design for Super Doomed.
Yeah.
That's what they should have done for the freaking Death of Superman movie.
Exactly. But again, DC is too,
we'll get to that, trust me. But again, back to this movie. This is also one of the movies that DC has done where they didn't change a lot in terms of like adapting the comic. Hell, they even adapted the art style, which I will say, the art style in this animated show actually kind of grew on me a little bit.
Honestly, I loved it.
Michael Turner, baby.
Diana's characterization, she is a little, I would say she's better than she is in DCAU. The whole thing, well, of course they did adapt the story, not very much closer to the comic than anything else. The change of, instead of a hug, was the shoulder, was the hand on the shoulder thing.
Short of that, for the most part, because there were some things that changed, but for the most part, it stayed very faithful.
Yeah. So with Clark and Diana's whole, like, divorced parents dynamic, I did love the part where he says, like, she gets on his nerves, and she's like, I heard that. And and then the part of them arguing, saying, we agreed on her training or whatever, and Clark is being like the protective dad. Yeah, that, even with them bickering, it showed a lot of chemistry. And then you have Batman just watching silently, like, I'm not getting in the middle of this.
Yeah, he's like, no, I'm not getting in the middle of them. They'll break me like a twig.
And then the scene of Diana fighting, that scene with Big Barda,
Oh,
their
that
team
was
up,
dope.
was amazing.
Because first off, I'm a huge fan of the female Furies as well. And I'm like, seeing that, I'm like, oh, thank you so much, this movie.
Yeah, if anything, if honestly, any of Wonder Woman's fights from the movies, DCAU, she really didn't have too much of a good showing, it, you know, as far as fighting.
Well, the problem is, when it comes to Wonder Woman, they didn't give her any like swords or shields or anything like that. She was just punching, so it got really generic. The only one that got like a weapon was Hawkgirl. At least in this, she shows up with a spear and a shield.
Yeah, to really show Diana's her different fighting styles. You know, she didn't she I love the part where she takes the rope or and twists it around her ankle.
You're not gonna believe this. I was just about to bring that up as my favorite scene.
Yeah, that
That is just so good. And she like steps down on it and pulls Lashina forward. I was like, oh, this is great. Because again, this movie really indulged in Wonder Woman being a warrior, and I really dig that.
yeah, and also just that she gave that big sister vibe for Kara.
Mm-hmm.
And for people, you can ship whatever you like, but in general, Kara is like 16 years old, and she's just now starting to be written as like, I think, a 21-year-old.
And she's still called
But
Supergirl.
yeah, yeah. But her dynamic with Diana has always been Diana as a big sister.
Yeah, I know. And there are some shippers that help. There are shippers that ship Superman and Batman.
You know,
I'm like, you people need to get out more.
ship what you like, because for some reason that is resonating with you, and you know,
Mm-hmm.
you can do what you want to do. And again, everyone has a different, unique preference. But at the same time, sometimes it's like, okay, you're going a little bit too far. It's okay, but kind of like the whole Bat Cess thing.
Oh
Well, you know,
God!
of
Thank you,
like
Bruce
shipping the
Timm.
Robins, Batgirl, and the thing about Batgirl and Batman is that it's a complex thing when Barbara was originally supposed to be uh Bruce's love interest,
Uh-huh.
like when she was first introduced. So de-aging her to be Grayson's love interest, it made things a lot complicated of why, you know, it seems wrong, but it actually, you know, does have a source within her earlier iterations.
Mm-hmm. So,
I
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I believe that actually in the Adam West series, when they introduced Batgirl, she was supposed to be Batman's love interest. But, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. So, moving on to our next movie, JLA Adventures in Time. So this was a weird one because I'm not that big of a fan of the Wonder Woman design.
It seemed like this came out in 2014, so I can't even say that it's the Rebirth design. I don't know. I guess they tried to
But it's like
mix
even
and
Robin's
match.
hair, the spiked hair look for Robin is just wrong.
I think that they were mix and mashing a lot of designs together, and
Hmm.
with Robin's hair, that definitely gave a Teen Titans uh at the 2003
Hmm.
um series. It gave that vibe.
Hmm.
But with this movie, honestly, I don't even know what it was so random.
Hmm. Yeah,
It
exactly. It was odd.
I think that what they were trying to do was like reminisce or whatever back to the Super Friends, which is
Hmm.
always good. But this just seemed so out of nowhere. Like they didn't, if they wanted to have like a continuity with this verse, it's basically nothing. You know, you don't know the source really of how this movie even came about.
Hmm.
Um, I don't even remember even seeing any interviews about this movie.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I will say I do like one thing about this movie. Superman doesn't have underwear.
Yeah, that is the only thing that's
I'm like, okay, you know what? I'll take that. But the story is okay. It's like the Legionnaires coming back in time, and then it is kind of interesting the idea about how if Superman isn't like discovered, the Justice League is informed. It's kind of weird, but I get what they're going for, and that Superman is like the heart of the Justice League.
yeah, that is a very good message. It's just the fact that this movie is just so random. But the only
Yeah.
scene
Hmm.
that matters, of course, for this show and for us is when the villain creates a black hole and, everything is starting to get sucked up. Diana, I believe that she tries to go attack the villain, and then she ends up getting swooped up into the black hole. So Clark, he flies up to go rescue her.
Because of course that's Clark.
And it's just the fact that he was so determined uh to catch up to her. And they do have a little, it's 2014, so of course they are in the realm of New 52 and Clark and Diana being in a relationship. It's not, of course, it's not so much of here as it seemed like they are just friends, like again, more akin to the Super Friends, but they still have some sort of dynamic here.
Hmm. Which I enjoy. It's okay. Now we get to the both nice moment and infuriating moment. All right, so
Oh,
DCAMU.
Jesus.
So, all right. So, this was a universe that started off awesome. Because when you think about it, the first movie in this universe starts off with a almost page to screen adaptation of Justice League Origin to the point of the "you're strong, I know" thing, and even some of the character design. So that was cool. A lot of the Hal Jordan Batman stuff was great, where Green Lantern's like, okay, so can you fly? No. Super strength? No. Wait, you're not just some dude in a bat suit, are you? And the Batman just smiles. And then he just takes off Green Lantern's ring and goes, what does this do? And he goes, wait, how'd you do that? He goes, it's run on concentration. You weren't concentrating. He's like, dang it. He goes, you won't do that again. And then Batman goes, unless I want to.
They are it's kind of like they are playfully being so antagonistic towards
It's
each
the
other.
annoying brother
Brother,
dynamic. And I love that. That's what this movie did so well. And my issue, an issue that I had with it was when they swapped out Aquaman for Shazam as a founding member of the League. I get why they did it, because if the second movie is going to be Throne of Atlantis, they probably figured just do the origin for Aquaman as well and cram that in. But this is when the cracks started to show, and the second movie, when they started to cram in and change a lot of stuff. But other than that, this was a pretty solid adaptation, even with like this technically being a sequel to Flashpoint. And that's why when we covered the DCAMU, we started with Flashpoint, because pretty much that's it. And the thing about this was the first time, Britt, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this. This was the first time an animated movie universe had the SuperWonder relationship, correct?
Yeah. In as far as in the movies, yeah. And you had a fan base that actually, was curious about this relationship, and you fumbled it.
Well, yeah, DC is known for fumbling things the fans like. But what's interesting about this is again, what's kind of interesting is that when we interviewed Sam Liu, I asked him about like Dark Apocalypse War, and he said, yeah, they just told us randomly one day, because they were planning on, I think it was a Justice League Dark and another Teen Titans movie, but then they were like, no, we're ending the universe, and they're like, well, okay. And a viewer of the show brought up something very interesting. It was I'm pulling up the person's name. For some reason it keeps losing me, but yeah, Atchison, if you're watching this, shout out to you. He said the problem with this universe, and actually it's kind of funny, it literally, in the same way that this was supposed to adapt the New 52, when they adapted the Rebirth stuff, they adapted the parts that made the bad parts of Rebirth, in that they started applying new post-crisis stories to New 52 characters, like the death of Superman.
And the thing is, there was no build up to that. It's just randomly, okay, let's do first Clark, his whole 180 character and attitude towards Diana. He was very mean, and it was kind of like, okay, is this the same one that pursued her, that when, that was flirting with her, that asked her out on a date, and now he's acting like he has no type of feelings for her whatsoever. And then you have, I saw a comment where it said that the relationship with Lois worked because the death of Superman's story. But as far as the animated verse, because he, built up a relationship with Diana, it made more sense for her to be there.
Well, and if you wanted to do the Doomsday story, if you were so stuck on using Doomsday, literally just do Superman Doom, because that's what that is. But the other thing is, like, when I interviewed Sam Liu, and this was the one part where I actually did disagree with him, when he said, so what James told me is that Superman had to be with Wonder Woman, because when you look at Death of Superman, it's also very much a Lois Lane story. And I said, is it though? Yeah, I said that, but I was very respectful. I was like, is it though? Because it's mainly a Superman story. And it's like, and the annoying part about this universe, and Britt and I just dealt with this. It dealt with people. So they did a tie-in comic for this, and all I have to do is say that, and Britt knows exactly what I'm talking about. That used the New 52 comic designs, but it was a tie-in for this. Then people used that comic to explain to explain why Superman and Wonder Woman broke up. They didn't, by the way, in the New 52, by the way. So that's how I know that's wrong. But they were applying that comic to the New 52 continuity, which it wasn't part of.
Yeah, and to say that they broke up because Clark really loved Lois is like, no, that has nothing to do. First of all, they didn't show the breakup.
They didn't break up.
Even the animated.
Well, in the comics, they didn't, because if they broke up, why is Clark sleeping with Diana in like the 4th volume of Tomasi's book? It was the only good part of Tomasi.
They broke up because Clark was the whole "I don't know if I love you" type thing.
But they were still together, though.
But they were still together. Yeah, they ended up still together. He wanted to marry her and yada yada. But nobody actually pays attention to that, because the first thing that they saw, though, was the breakup scene of, and I believe that was a sneak peek, kind of like promo of Clark and Diana's breakup. And obviously we didn't see it as it was, where he says, I think he said, "I don't love you anymore" in the sneak peek.
Oh yeah, that I remember this because this was back when I was tracking, and it's like that was the sneak peek. He said, "I don't love you anymore." The internet flipped out, and then they changed it to, "I don't know if I love you anymore."
And honestly, that just shows how this is written with someone who didn't care for the relationship.
Yeah,
And
that's how I knew it. It was very. That's when it screamed vindictive. When the original plot by Tomasi was, "I don't love you anymore." Why would you say that?
and the fact that the whole scene was Clark basically wanted to commit suicide and go, you know, to the sun,
To
thinking that
try
he
and
would
get his
get his
powers back.
powers back. But it was basically like, you don't know if you can get your powers back. So you're on a suicide mission. And Diana tries to save him, and she does. And the fact that she follows you all the way to the sun, and you say that to her, you know, that is something that you can, like I said, you can tell that Tomasi didn't care for the relationship, and basically it was a break them up by any means, even if it doesn't make sense to the characters, even if it makes them unlikable, just break them up. And yeah, just that whole part didn't make sense at all to me.
Yeah, it was just too like, because if you were gonna, it's against Superman's character to just out and say, "I don't love you anymore." The way that they corrected it, that made a little more sense. If you were stuck on that wrong, he would say, "I don't." He wouldn't even say that. I think he would say, I don't know how I feel anymore," or like someone. I don't think he would say anything at all. Clark really wouldn't, particularly even that version of Clark that was like pretty down on himself, but. It's like, and then you find out that he punched out Barry too. I'm like, wait, this is the
Yeah,
guy that everyone tells me gets Superman?
yeah, he was very, I mean, Tomasi really showed that the way the way he, characterizes Clark is he's very uptight. This He has this very conservative, preachy, you know, type of way that's just really unlikable. And with Diana, it's like Tomasi really showed his true feelings for her character. For Clark to say he doesn't love her anymore, whether he doesn't or he think he doesn't, your feelings doesn't, go off like a light switch. That's the one
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. Don't just like, "I don't love you anymore."
And then the thing is, I believe it was in the very, actually it was the previous issue, is that he does say that he loves her, and she's right there with him, helping him take out the bullets that was lodged in his chest from fighting the Suicide Squad.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, "I have to go with this alone." And Diana says, "I don't want to lose you." And he says, "You won't." And he says, "I love you." So for him to, turn around and say, I don't love you, or I don't know if I love you anymore, or for him to die and basically break that promise of she did lose him. Yeah, Tomasi,
And
it
then not
just
only
makes me,
that, he's pissed off at her because she used the lasso on Lois. So, what is that? Why is that an issue? But anyway, back to this. So the thing I love about this is that even at the end of Justice League War, where it very much like where it sort of deviated when the JLA are being honored, you have this interaction where Diana goes, "I have never met anyone else like you, Superman," and I'm like, that's the hint that they're gonna do it.
Honestly, these are the type of changes that stay in line with the character and more so enhance the story. I did like the changes of, even though both scenes are epic in their own way. You either have the "You're Strong, I Know" when they're in mid battle from the comics, or the fact that Diana saved the president and Clark saved the presidential plane, and they are upside down, staring at each other, smiling with the plane, with Clark carrying the plane.
He's still holding the plane. Even before that, when all of a sudden the plane just stops falling and they see him on the security camera, she goes, "By the gods."
And she's like very enarmed with him already. Those are good moments. And again, you are enhancing the story that was already within the source material of the comics. And then, yeah, this ending was very good. And of course you have those moments where you also know that James Tucker was trying to hint of something, like with Steve. Steve was still very jealous.
He was just there in the background, and I'm like, actually, it's kind of funny. In this, he was very much the comic Steve, because he's just standing out there in the crowd like a stalker. Then we get to Throne of Atlantis. Now, I'll admit, it does seem kind of rushed, but here's the thing. So was the relationship in the comics. So really, when you think about it, it's very comic accurate.
Yeah. What they should have done was, with Throne of Atlantis, well, they are adapting that part of the story, of the storyline that was within the comics. The thing is, they should have had Superman and Wonder Woman's book adapted before then, or something like that. And
you don't even have to do power couple, just have this be like they're falling in love.
Yeah. I mean, use power couple as a basis, like at the end of the movie, that they are establishing themselves as a couple. But yeah, have an in-between movie to show them, gradually coming together. The thing is, though, for us, we want to see their relationship grow, because the basis of Clark and Diana's relationship is being friends, evolving to best friends, being partners, and then it grows into a loving relationship as a serious couple. But at the same time, they have Clark and Lois together just on a whim, with no build up, with nothing like that. It's just like an automatic thing that they're together, and that's it. That's all. There's no rush to it or anything. Even if it's done off screen, it's okay. It's accepted. So that double standard is something that I will never understand. I understand with Clark and Diana, again, we as the fans want that to go, through that journey with them. But at the same time, it's like, how is this being labeled as a rush when the default couples can be together?
Well, arguably also
right from the beginning.
Wonder Bat and DCAU is very rushed, because it's like all of a sudden she's like really into Batman, and I'm like, what? That makes no sense. But speaking of rushed, then we get the Tomorrowverse. Because all right, so a lot of these movies, let me put it this way, I've enjoyed a lot of these movies, but particularly like the Superman one, the Batman one, and to a certain degree, I like the Warworld movie. I still feel I feel like the problem with the Warworld movie is that those three like animation, those three stories that take place on the Elseworld stuff. If they had cut out the first two and just stuck with the Martian, like the Martian invasion one, and then just expanded the Warworld part, I don't think people would have been as anti this movie.
Exactly. Oh, one more thing that I wanted to talk about with
yeah.
Okay, so the one scene from Justice League versus Teen Titans was when when Clark is obviously possessed with the demon, and they are coming from first their phone call of Clark saying them flirting on the phone, and Diana says that she buys new glasses, and for him to say, you know, the whole "I will recognize you with whatever you wear," that was cute. But part of it is Diana loved the glasses. She loved that playfulness. So for Tomasi to 180 and, you know, to make it seem like she didn't like having the secret identity or having the glasses, is just, I just don't know why they didn't organically, if they had to break up, show us why. But at the same time,
again,
we know
they didn't break up in the comics.
Yeah, so I mean, why did you have them if they didn't have a reason to break up in the comics, if they didn't have a reason to break up in the animated universe only solely because of an adaptation that wasn't even necessary.
That wasn't even part of the New 52 that this universe is based on. It's just astounding. And the other part, I love the dialogue on that when she goes, "You can always share your burdens with me, Clark."
That, yes. And the difference.
But a fun fact, I will say this: that's when I first discovered the Diana and Cal Instagram account.
Really?
Was that because I saw you were posting those scenes, and I was like, I like this. Follow.
Oh wow. Yeah, a lot of the videos that really catches the eye of a lot of fans to follow. But yeah, this exactly the scene that I was going to bring up right quick was because Diana, she is very supportive. But again, you compare it with Lois, and not only does she not know that Clark, again, with the whole secret identity of not knowing Clark and Superman are the same people and are the same person. And all he does is take off his glasses, and she stares
Just
at him.
Stare at him. Yeah, I'm like, what? And
yeah,
I do like the dialogue where she goes, "How could I not have seen it before?" Yeah, how could you not have seen it before?
And then the part of Clark saying that he loves her when you don't even see their relationship develop at all.
Yeah, prove it.
Yeah, and then the fact that Diana told him when she was quote unquote defeated by Doomsday, Diana told him to go fight and stop the thing, stop Doomsday. But Lois told him to stay with her, that, she said call the cavalry, as in like, you stay with me, but let the other heroes deal with it. And it just seems so selfish. So how can you destroy a relationship that actually was supportive and that was building, even if it did feel a little rush? It's still the fact that it was, being built on, and had a foundation. But then you have the Lois and Clark relationship that not only just sped by off screen, but you are supposed to accept them. And then Lois is, telling him not to be Superman. And even with the last movie, Apocalypse War, or is it?
Yeah, technically the last movie is the Constantine short, but yes, the last actual movie is the Apocalypse War.
So in that movie, first of all, Lois fights Harley and she wins. And it's like,
Harley fights dirty. There's no way Lois wins.
yeah. And they basically, it really felt like they wanted to give Diana's role to Lois. And so with her fighting, with her being like this group leader and this strategist and everything like that, you can definitely tell that this is supposed to be Diana's role. And not only that, but while the world is basically all the heroes, okay, so Clark, he basically leads the entire hero community like into a death trap.
Mm-hmm.
And while everybody is dying or turning into some type of android or something like that, he goes off and supposedly he must have married Lois somewhere after everyone is basically dead or, still on Apocalypse being tortured.
I think they got married in between Return of Superman and in that movie. I don't think he was married in the 5 years following the battle.
Well, either way, they still did so much stuff off screen.
I know.
It's like,
mm-hmm.
Where did that come from? And then you have Wonder Woman Bloodlines, where it was a part where they of course address Diana not being with Clark anymore, and she says, I don't fly with him anymore. And she's trying to flirt with Steve. And it's kind of like, why are you jabbing at Clark and Diana's relationship when Steve, first of all, he treated her like he talked to her like she was a child. And she even said it. She said that you sound like my mother, trying to control her. So
and the funny part about that movie is that Steve doesn't show up anytime after that. It's like he's gone.
And then, in the first movie, he's irrelevant. And then in Bloodlines, there's also a scene where she says that, like, he is all that matters to her in the world or something like that. And it's like, where is all this coming from for Clark and Lois and Diana and Steve to try to confess this type of love when you never see it actually building, like how Clark and Diana's relationship was built. And yeah, James Tucker, he basically admitted it though, that Diana's whole dialogue with Lois of Clark loves you, but I have a special bond with Cal. You're splitting him up again as like he is two different people instead of one, and using Diana as a mouthpiece. And the reason why they have that conversation is because Tucker wanted the fans to like Lois, because of course whoever liked Superman and Wonder Woman together, they were gonna have questions, and he didn't like being questioned about
well yeah. And the thing is, right, because telling the fans to like something always goes swimmingly in entertainment, but right. it's just, that's my problem when like people like Tom King tell me, oh, the Sovereign's going to be Wonder Woman's Joker. I'm like, let me be the determining of that. But it's like, also, you have to like this character. Bite me. I don't have to like Lois, and you did a really piss poor. Here's the thing: if you have to denigrate other characters to make me like another character, maybe that character is just a horrible character. Which is again one of my chief issues with Lois, because I could like her if she were written well, but DC keeps doing this where they denigrate her to build up other characters, or they turn her into other characters. Like how this one, they turn her into Perry White, complete with screaming at her subordinates, and I'm like. So if you're going to turn her into Perry White, why replace Perry White?
Yeah, honestly, they just wanted Lois to have some type of role and to make her seem higher than what she is. But even having Perry's job, honestly, she just stays in the office. So she really doesn't have much of a role. And I
Except
think
for
that
emotionally abusing the super twins.
yeah, that whole thing, no. Just to tell a child that I know where you came from, but you don't fight,
I
like,
know they fight where you came from. We don't fight here. I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? But anyway, so back to Tomorrowverse. This is one of those things. It was a cool idea. They were taking like the new 52 idea of making everyone younger. That was a cool thing. And they the problem is, again, when it's kind of funny when Britt and I were chatting off screen about the Crisis movie, and then they have like Lois with her hand on Superman's chest. We're like, oh no, they did it off screen again.
yeah, it's okay. So you basically ruined a verse where the characters are young, they are, just starting out or whatever, and then you reboot for the characters to be young again, reintroduce them, but it's even worse now that you're doing so much off screen, and then you're doing a big event such as Crisis after like what, 4 movies, and you haven't
This is
actually established any of the main characters. You've only had Batman had a two-parter. Superman had his movie, but no one
no Wonder Woman
it
movie.
was no Wonder Woman movie. She doesn't even exist in the Prime
No, she does.
Tomorrowverse.
She does.
She was mentioned, but you see in Crisis, it's only Earth 2 Wonder Woman. So it's kind
Yeah,
of like they
we'll see what happens with that, because yeah, as of now, she's either. It's kind of funny. This is pretty much how DC normally treats Wonder Woman, as an afterthought.
yeah, and also in one of the previews, Clark is announcing the Justice League for Prime Earth, and Diana is not mentioned whatsoever. He honestly not
But
even Green
I thought the
Lantern.
Justice League already exists because they were referenced in the Green Lantern movie.
They do, but then for some odd reason, it's kind of like they retcon themselves to write the Crisis movie.
Maybe what's happening is that there could be that's a flashback scene, and maybe Wonder Woman joined later.
I would hope so, but I don't know because it looks like they are um in the it looks like they are in the present, and because that is also the team that ends up wherever they are
Mm-hmm.
when the anti or when whoever is speaking with them, and you see all these different characters from these different earths, but you only see one Wonder Woman. You don't see there's Earth 2 Superman, which is ironic that we're talking about the animation, and with they just released a new still with Prime Superman and Earth 2 Superman meeting, shaking hands, and Wonder Woman's right there. But you don't see a Prime Wonder Woman at all, even though she was mentioned.
That's strange. Maybe they'll say she was killed off screen, because that's apparently how this universe works. But then we get this good moment when it's like the Trinity, and they're from other groups in the multiverse. But even she's like, Clark, it's you. I remember. You're so much younger than my Clark. And then she goes, I remember this, Superman. She puts her hand on his chest very romantically, and you can imagine Superman's probably like, baseball, cold showers, baseball, cold showers.
This was a shock because, well, the Tomorrowverse is much, it's, you know, rushed very much so. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
faster than New 52 was. The animation, you can tell, is a little cheaper than New 52.
Well, yeah,
And
and again,
they
according to
started,
Sam, they don't get a big budget.
yeah, but, and it's the fact that also, with in regards of relationships, Superman, Clark and Lois were not together in the Man of Tomorrow movie. They were rivals and everything, but Lois pretty much was trying to scoop him out of a story.
Mm-hmm.
It ends where there's like no romance whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
But on Earth 2, Diana, she cared for Steve. It was basically golden age, you know. Steve is following Diana around like a lovesick puppy. He wants her to marry him, but then Steve, he ends up dead, of course, as always. And she shows that she did care for him. But as we see Earth 2 Superman, though, she calls him Shakespeare, which I really hope in this movie she calls him that, because that is such a cute nickname for him,
Mm-hmm.
as him being a writer. But you can tell that she had a soft spot for Shakespeare. And then seeing him in the Superman uniform and everything, she basically forgot about Steve.
Yeah, exactly. She's like, well, that's the way Diana normally is when the superior man shows up. But
Right.
So we'll see what happens with Crisis. Hey, they could surprise us, but it is DC, and normally when they surprise us, it's not a good thing. So then we get
Right.
to one of the most interesting projects. Let me put it to you that way. Justice League Action. This is one of the things, I swear, I was watching this. Then when they put Superman and Wonder Woman together in this, because again, this started in Rebirth. So this is after the relationship is done. I'm like, as soon as they do the date episode, I was like, I am both very surprised, but very not surprised at the same time.
Yeah, and it was so, well, I believe that Justice League Action, what they were trying to do is go try to get the younger audience that Teen Titans Go had.
Mm-hmm.
Also in Teen Titans Go, there's actually a Valentine's episode where they are in a classroom and Cyborg is talking about chemistry. And on the wall, they have hearts everywhere as an Easter egg, and they have all the ship names. And again, they split Superman up in two, but there is Clark and Lois, and then there's Kal and Diana. But it's just the fact that in a heart, they actually acknowledge Kal and Diana as a ship with, you know, chemistry. That's really cool. So, well, back to Justice League Action. Teen Titans Go is more of like, I'll say, max age is probably an 8-year-old, maybe a 10-year-old. And then Justice League Action was supposed to be, you know, for your preteens on up. And have a little more fun with it. And again, going back to the Silver Age. And the Superman voice actor, he said that he connected with Superman because of the outsider, you know, perspective of him and being an alien, and that is why his relationship with Wonder Woman makes sense, because they're both, you know, immigrants, and they just, you know, understand each other. And that was the first time of actually hearing a voice actor who understands the character, not as just this ignoring his Kryptonian side, that he actually took the time to read about Superman and understand that he is a complex character, more than just the I am Clark Kent, Superman is what I can do type thing.
Which is the stupidest mindset for a Superman thing. But it's like, even with this, again, this was really surprising for me because because again, this show came out during Rebirth when they were all like, SuperWonder is so bad, and then they're like, well, here's this cartoon where SuperWonder is a big thing, and I'm like, okay, speaking of coming out of nowhere, well, here's the thing, it came out of nowhere because a lot of these episodes are like separate things. They're meant to be very episodic, but I don't mean coming out of nowhere in that sense. I mean coming out of nowhere, like I did not expect DC to do this.
Right. And from the very first episode, you can see Clark and Diana's bond in their partnership. And what's funny is that Wonderbat shippers call them like warriors, like they, you know, are. But honestly, the whole Justice League, if you know, they are warriors in a sense.
And first off, Batman's less of a warrior because a warrior is willing, when the chips fall, to take a life.
Yeah, but in the first episode, Diana says that we are warriors.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and it was so funny that she has the speech and Clark doesn't, he doesn't deny it or anything, or it's not written for him to deny, and he just goes along with it. And yeah, it's those type of things that you can totally debunk. You're not trying to, like I said earlier, like what you like. Everyone has a different preference, but at the same time, at least try.
The way I always say is that like what you like, don't insult what other people like. In other words, don't insult people for liking things differently than you do.
And also, like, don't take things out of context, or like a lot of fans like to edit things, and they claim it as
mm-hmm.
and they claim it as something official.
Like what Britt and I were referring to is that there's this account, I'm not going to name names, that takes like screenshots of this stuff, of DC, of Tomorrowverse, cuts it up and puts like all this stuff, but with Batman instead of Superman, and then pass it off as if it's actually official. Like, hey, we got screenshots from the Crisis on Infinite Earths movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's even where he puts his watermark on there, his signature or whatever, but at the same time, people are actually believing that this is, you know, from a movie. And what's even more so, like, you can tell that it's an edit, is that Diana's eyes are silver,
mm-hmm.
or gray. And with his edit, he changed her eyes to be blue. So it's like, yeah, this is definitely, you know, an edit or whatever. And for it to be for you to actually see that difference, it's like, why do that? You know, so many people can be creative, but just don't act like this is official. Don't lie. Don't lie to your audience.
Because guess what? They're going to be pissed at you if Crisis comes out and those scenes are not in there. They're going to be like, wait, what? I thought this was in there. But moving on to our last film of the evening, Superman Red Sun. A pretty good Elseworlds adaptation. And then I got to talk to Sam about this because he was a producer on this, so I'll probably have him on to do when we talk about it for Comics League. But I'm like, my problem with this is that they do everything else is very like 100% faithful. Not 100%, but like high up there in terms of faithful. Then they do this scene where this part's fine. Then they go outside And then Wonder Woman, and then they basically wrote it like, just because Wonder Woman comes from an island of only women, she only likes women.
Right. That and they wanted to push that off as in like this female empowerment feminist thing. And no, that is very like you're stereotyping Diana. Just because she's from an island of women, that doesn't mean that at all. You know, that it, you are basically playing into the meme of how people, you know, joke about Diana, and the Amazons. They don't take them serious. And you're playing, honestly, you indirectly play into the male power fantasy of thinking that way, of thinking that, you know, an island full of women is just like that. This scene was good. But yeah, of course, every time you have a good scene, they always want to change. They change it to be something that's like, oh my god, you had to mess things up.
Mm-hmm. Now, I have pulled up the actual Red Sun comic, and I'm going to read to you all a passage from it by Mark Millar. By the way, one of the people that like or hate his work, he gets the comic book industry. But anyway, so what he says is, life was so simple in those days: deflecting meteorites, welding tectonic plates, managing a global economy single-handedly. Every problem had a solution, sometimes even two solutions. Of course, a romance was suspected, but we both just laughed at the idea. Diana was more like one of the boys, and she had no use for men on her antiseptic island. Or so it seemed in those faraway days. Poor Diana. I could monitor life on other worlds and watch electrons, but sometimes I was so blind. Yeah,
Yeah.
the SuperWonder thing was very much in this book.
The thing is, though, it seemed very unrequited, though, requited about with Clark being so, you know, blind. Yeah. And it wasn't a very good representation of the relationship.
No, it wasn't. And even at least Millar put on there when Superman was reflecting, he goes, "How could I have been so blind?" So even like Clark regrets saying, "Hey, I had this opportunity and I didn't go for it."
Yeah, and you have, I believe that there was a panel, maybe in JSA with Jeff Johns, or it was showing the multiverse, and it was showing like the different Earths in Red Sun. And there is a scene though where Clark and Diana have this sort of thing, and he says, Clark tells Diana to tie him up in the rope, or like if she didn't believe him, and she said, "Don't think I haven't thought about it." So
yeah.
So yeah, that is the kind of relationship that they should have. It's playful, you know, banter and everything like
Flirtatious.
that. Yeah, flirtatious. It doesn't have to be serious or lead to anything. It doesn't have to lead to something completely. But the flirtation and both of them being respected, that is the one thing that is, I would say that sometimes why Wonder Woman fans reject Clark and Diana's relationship, or her being in relationships period, is because Diana falls short in being respected. And even I can't stand it. You know, I will very much say how I feel about how the animated movies, Tuckerverse or whatever, really disrespected Diana. And to show he wanted his preferred, you know, classic quote unquote couples with Lois and Clark and Steve and Diana, but the way you went about it was very childish. And Diana ended up with the short end of the stick. And even with trying to have her with Steve, Steve ended up not even being in any other animated movie. Even in Apocalypse, he wasn't even in it.
Yeah.
So he was basically a non-entity. And you did this only, of course, for Lois. And I believe that he actually had an interview and he said that Superman movies weren't selling. So that is why they didn't do Superman movies anymore.
Oh, I
So
wonder why.
so you get the sense of they did Death of Superman not only to capitalize on the synergy of BVS of of Superman's death in DCEU, but also they wanted to use the main Justice League for the movie to sell. And it feels like that's what they keep doing is using Diana for a sales boost, but disrespect her in story. That's why we have Superman and Wonder Woman merchandise, but in story their relationship is, ignored or bashed or whatever like that. Yeah, so with this movie, it's better than the comic because Diana became a little bit more independent. The only thing is that they didn't have to say that she came from an island of women, so she's a lesbian. You didn't have to say that. You really just had to say that, well, maybe let's not rush into anything, or I just
It was
want to
like
be friends.
I just met you.
Yeah, something like that. But you didn't have to make it, try to make a statement that had nothing to do with anything.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's the problem with DC. It's like it's a lot of uncalled for vitriol and such. But I'm just. Oh, by the way, so it's really funny. By the way, I was just checking Twitter, and someone and a buddy of mine named Axel. By the way, shout out to Axel. He goes, so he posts a picture of Wonder Bat and Super Wonder, and he goes, "What if I told you I hate these ships? The second one, Super Wonder, a little less. It because it makes it makes Wonder Woman feel reduced in some way. I mean, I disagree, but still, but I just wanted to bring that up. But yeah, and the thing is, like, that's basically was DC's MO after the new 52. It was let's be vindictive about Super Wonder because we know that Lois and Clark or like Steve and Diana can never reach that level of like it can never reach that level of popularity and sales wise because even they admit the movies where they brought in where they haphazardly broke them up, yeah, they didn't sell. I wonder why. Or maybe it's because the death of Superman after Superman already died in the live action movies is a bad idea.
The thing about the whole death thing, it's so played out. Like, honestly, what they could have done is what you keep saying, should have done doomed, or it would have been, especially if he comes back, like, basically in the very next movie. You might as well just have Diana use the lightning bolt and resuscitate him and just have that moment of emotion, but that scene is also just as emotional and go about your way. Death of Superman honestly needs to be buried. Like, stop bringing that story up. And Honestly, if DC animates that movie one more time, you know,
It's on the third time.
it's like, don't do that. Don't. That's these characters. They always want to say that these characters have been around for 85 plus years, but yet they circle back to the same stories. They don't explore the 85 years worth of material. I
Yeah.
mean, the animated verse, they have these movies, but these movies don't even scratch, you know, the uh the tip of the iceberg of stories. Even with Wonder Woman Bloodlines, that's her second animated movie, but you try to um put like multiple storylines in. You want her, I think Tucker said that it was supposed to be like her um Hush type movie, but yet you don't have enough time to invest in her villains or invest in her character herself.
Yeah, and but I think it's hilarious. Her first animated movie is when Steve under the lasso goes, "Man, your daughter has a nice rack." So there was that. But yeah, it's because the thing about Hush, the reason why that worked for until the end of the animated movie when they changed the ending was that they spent time with like each rogue of Batman, so it felt like each one was getting equal weight. The one that they spent like the most time with was Cheetah, and even that is Cheetah wasn't even the main villain of that movie. So when I'm watching this, I'm like, and the other thing that's kind of jarring about Bloodlines is that you notice the art style changed.
Yeah, I honestly think this is when budgets really start to
Yeah, I can tell
slash.
because the art style is not. I don't like the art style in Bloodlines at all.
Yeah, and it I think it was trying to show the transition and change of going from the new 52 to like rebirth type
Yeah,
um verse. But yeah, that pretty much showed that the budget was slashed again. And yeah, just all of these you have these different storylines that has the potential to bring in new audiences. And again, once you watch these shows or these movies, you know, maybe it will make someone interested to read the source material. Or instead of relying on even just the movies and the TV shows, how about actually adapting the source material and not changing so much? If the change is to make it better, or the change is adding a little bit more detail of the source material, yes. But to change it for switching out characters, omitting scenes that you know actually matter, or just the whole selfish preference mindset, don't do that. And that is what also causes the fans to be so divided.
yeah, and don't listen to what Twitter says because most of the time Twitter's not necessarily there. But anyway, so that's where we're gonna leave it. This was a pretty dope episode, 2 hours and 42 minutes, so not quite 3 hours, but we'll get there next time. But Britt, before we end, I want to ask you this: which of these animated things that we talked about is your favorite?
So as far as the more, hmm, I would say Ruby.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then, yeah, because it really gave like that baseline of Clark and Diana's relationship as just partners. Then the Friends is just all out fun,
Mm-hmm.
just, and I can't stand it but we did have the New 52 relationship. So I would say the DC MAU, it it was okay. So I would
Yeah,
give that.
it was more like they there was an attempt at first.
Yeah. Like despite the fumble at the end and basically crashing and burning, it still gave us New 52, and I will always love their scene in Greece, and especially the background music that's playing.
It's very
And
Greek. There you go.
it showed, again, it showed the potential, and it gave respect to more so Diana's side of things before they messed it up. And also with that scene, when Diana says it's a beautiful view, and how Clark looks at her first and
Yeah.
then say, yeah, and agrees with her, that is something that is, stands out. But also just, again, yeah, we know it's rushed. It's, they could have done more, but the fact that we got it.
hmm I'll give you that. At least they gave us that. For me, it's actually all of that. It's Ruby Sears, the in a certain way Super Friends, but really DCAMU, because at least for like the first, even like for and I'm counting War. Anytime they had SuperWonder, so that's War, Atlantis, and JL versus TT. Those are my favorites because yeah, they got it. They 100% got it in subtle ways. It's like you can always share your burdens with me, Clark. Then the whole yeah, like we said before, I'm pretty sure I'd be able to recognize you no matter what you're wearing. Everything like that. They got all the minute details. So that's what's makes the rest of the DCAMU so heartbreaking because they had it. They had it.
Yeah,
But
they
yeah.
and yeah, it's always the potential, and I think that's what we long for is the potential. It's like, but that's also what makes us creative and why we are doing the story that we're doing.
Yeah. But let's do that. Speaking of which, Britt, do you have any, before we log off, do you have any like teases you want to give us?
So of course I have Diana, Hippolyta, and Clark taking care of sick Diana. I am almost done with the first chapter, putting a little bit more details. As always, this one takes forever to finish. Um, and of course, the one shots that I have. And well, first, I want to say that the Instagram page is at 59, I think, point 2 or 3. So within the next week, we will be hitting 60,000 followers,
Yay.
which is very. I try to keep up with this, with knowing about uh, the engagement. And so within a month's time, I think we were actually only at 56,000. And then to gain this many within, the holiday break and about to hit the record, it feels very 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 good, and it follows with the whole holiday spirit of joyfulness and stuff, and to see all of the support that this fandom is gaining.
I
And
still feel
then
like with that, what that kind of tells me is that eventually what goes around comes around. So maybe we'll get something.
right, and well, as we was talking about with Tomorrowverse, hopefully with that still of seeing the two Clarks meeting and Diana is right there. Hopefully, there is a scene that shows their dynamic there. I My expectations are very low, but hoping either way, we are still going to collaborate and probably rewrite that scene anyway.
Yeah, probably.
And also, we are what, 98%, 95% done with our first chapter, which is very exciting.
Yeah, I got some stuff from cooking in this little noggin right here. Oh
Of course.
boy.
And you're gonna make me cry.
Yes, I am, because that's basically our dynamic. I make you cry with my sweet ass ideas. So anyway, guys, stay heroic. Drop in the comments your favorite Superman, Wonder Woman animation, and we'll see you in the next week. And remember, the number one lesson that we should always tell you: Lois Lane is Lois Lame. Bye bye.